with a long history of trade relationships with Central Asia and China, the urban mercantile Buddhists of Sindh must have immediately realized the possibilities inherent for their class in the Arab Eastern Front and taken them into account in opting for collaboration. That is, urban mercantile Buddhists may have hoped that the Arab conquest of Sindh would reopen inter-regional trade routes, both maritime and overland, and hence benefit their class and indirectly their religion. Thus, they had good reasons to perceive that their mercantile interests would be better served under the Arab trade empire. Discriminatory customs regulations considerably reduced the capacity of the Buddhist merchants of Sindh to compete at par with Muslims in large-scale inter-regional commerce. As a result, these merchants found it increasingly difficult to compete with Muslim merchants on an equal footing. The urban mercantile Buddhists of Sindh experienced relative deprivation and felt that their precarious condition was caused by the fact that they were non-Muslims, whereas their Muslim counterparts were prospering for the simple reason that they were Muslims. MacLean has pointed out that it is no surprise that the religious solution of converting to Islam would have been a plausible option among those urban mercantile Buddhists who experienced relative deprivation in Arab Sindh, unquote. While some Buddhist monks definitely emigrated from Sindh to other parts of India during the Arab occupation, it is extremely unlikely that any large-scale migration took place. There is also no evidence in the sources to indicate that any of the Buddhists or low-caste Hindus converted to Islam because it was allegedly a champion of egalitarianism. As has been pointed out by Irfan Habib, there is no sign of commitment to any such equality in the writings of Islamic theologians and scholars of the medieval period. It is reasonable to conclude that Buddhism died out in Sindh during the course of Arab rule. Indeed, the absence of Arab period artifacts in Buddhist sites suggests a relatively early date for the institutional deterioration and demise of Buddhism. Though there is irrefutable evidence to show that Buddhist viharas were attacked by Arabs and Turkish invaders, and some of them were literally wiped out of existence, it must be remembered that the attacks were neither organized nor systematic. Nevertheless, it was to be expected that such occasions of political uncertainty were habitually accompanied by some amount of massacre and forced conversion. However, even after the Turkish invaders had overrun the country, random and strictly localized attempts at revival were made. Dharmswamin acknowledges that even though Nalanda was doomed to death, still teaching and learning was going on there for over at least 4 after decades. However, commenting on Tarnath's lamentation that with the destruction of Vikramshila and Odantapuri, the die for Buddhism in India had been cast. D.P. Chattopadhyay expresses surprise as to how can a creed, so long as it possesses any inner vitality, become virtually extinct from such a vast country only with the fall of twin centers situated somewhere in Bihar, unquoted. Padmanabhan Jaini also says, why were the Buddhists not able to regroup and rebuild after the initial Holocaust had come to an end, unquote. Muhammad Habib points out that economic and imperialistic considerations rather than religious zeal were the inspiring motive behind these invasions. R.M. Eaton has said that almost all of the cases of violence were invariably political, that is, to establish symbolic as well as real authority. To quote him, first acts of temple desecration were nearly invariably carried out by military officers or ruling authorities. That is, such acts that we know about were undertaken by the state. Second, the chronology and geography of the data indicate that acts of temple desecration typically occurred on the cutting edge of a moving frontier. In Bihar, this included the targeting of Buddhist monastic establishments at Udantapuri, Vikramshila and Nalanda. Unquote. Though the empirical reality and ruthlessness in some cases of the Arab and Turushka conquest cannot be denied, their actions do not appear to be the decisive cause for the decline of Buddhism in India. According to H.D. Sankalia, though Buddhism had begun to decline already, a death blow was given by the mighty blood-smeared hand of Islam. Unquote.